Hi, welcome to the Women in Fishing podcast. I'm Chris Woodward, Executive Editor for Sport Fishing. My guest today is Bebe Dalton Harrison. Bebe is a natural resource expert and Director of Education for South Carolina Wildlife Federation. She lives in the Charleston, South Carolina area and is the owner of Angling Women and Old Bridge Outfitters, which focus on angler education as well as unique fishing-related products. Bebe is passionate about introducing children to fishing, so we're going to ask her advice and talk about why that's an important role for women. Hi, Bebe. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Great. First of all, just tell me a little bit about the fishing you like to do, so we have an idea of what you're into.
So I grew up right here on the coast in Charleston. And the Charleston Harbor is my backyard. It was my playground growing up. So from the time I can hold a fishing rod, I was fishing for trout and flounder. And that's what we did. We inshore fished all the time. Sometimes when I didn't even want to. We just grew up as a family. I have two sisters. And my dad got stuck with all girls. So mom and sisters and I all fished. So we loved the inshore fishing. But as I got a little bit older, I started experimenting with freshwater and then started teaching some freshwater. And then my second love would be fly fishing. So I got to fly fish in Montana and I do some streams in North Carolina and just getting into saltwater fly fishing a little bit. So that's my new passion.
Awesome. I'm envious because I definitely want to get into some Montana fly fishing. We'll be having a podcast on that down the road. So, okay, good. Well, so a little freshwater, a little inshore saltwater primarily. So why is it your mission to help children get involved in fishing? How did you get started with that? And why is that a passion?
When I started going to a DNR camp, a Department of Natural Resources camp, when I was 13, and I was kind of devastated because my mom was sending me to flower camp. I thought it was flower camp because it was Garden Club was sponsoring it and the DNR. And I went and I absolutely fell in love with it. We took all these natural resources classes. Of course, fisheries stood out to be my favorite. And that was really my first intro to a lot of freshwater stuff. And I ended up becoming a counselor at that camp. And then now I run the second year program of that camp. I just knew that that's where I wanted to be. I started out wanting to do advertising and public relations for like the Department of Natural Resources. And then through that camp, they sent us I was a guinea pig to go on a coastal program. And in the middle of my college life, I changed from advertising and public relations to marine science because I just wanted to get out in it. And like I said, I knew that my dad would show me how to fish and he would kind of expect me to catch it, like just catch on, but it wasn't a teaching, it was showing me. And so I knew, at some point I made that click where I said, I need to be able to teach people how to fish and how to be confident fishing rather than just showing them.
Yeah, because there are a lot of steps that I think people who just naturally do the sport of fishing forget that they need to teach, hey, how to tie a knot or something. And, they just, here's what you do. And they, cast it out and suddenly you're fishing, but you don't have all of the accumulated knowledge. And I think it's easy to forget that as an adult trying to help children. That's for sure.
Right. I vividly remember sitting in the boat, having lost 3 or 4 rigs and asking him one more time. And he said, I've shown you this. You need to be able to do it. And I would watch him do it, but he didn't explain the steps. And so that's kind of why Angling Women was born. We all have somebody that can show us, I feel like, or most of us, but it takes a little bit different approach to teach somebody.
Okay. So what kinds of programs are you involved in right now that help kids learn to fish?
Tomorrow afternoon is our final Low Country Living for Kids. So that's one of the programs we've been doing after school through the recreation department here. And the participants learn how to rig a rod. They learn how to cast. They learn how to throw a cast net. They learn how to crab. So we've kind of done that over several weeks. And tomorrow will be the culmination where they get to go out and do it all on the water. And then we have some college programs that are in the works, and that is just beginning. So a lot of students that don't fish or that haven't fished since they were really little, we're going to try and get them re-engaged. But and we got a plishing challenge coming up, which I'll talk about later on.
Okay. Well, it sounds like, in a lot of ways, you are combining, essentially your love of the natural resources and the outdoors, and putting that together with fishing and teaching kids not only specific steps to take to be able to cast a line into the water and catch a fish, but you're also teaching them about the water and the other species that are there and all that type of thing. Why do you think that's important?
Conservation in general is a high priority for me. I really, everything that I do or every program that I develop has a huge conservation component to it because we want it to be around for the future. It's been around for me. I have been working with a lot of government agencies over my years and protecting the habitat and protecting the species so that it will be around for a long time. It's just important for us to be able to enjoy the resource and enjoy the resource responsibly. There's so many factors for fishing just being a healthy activity that you can do. It can be a lifelong activity if we take care of the resource. So I definitely have a message when I put my programs together that involves a very heavy conservation component.
Okay. What do you find are some of the challenges and what are some of your favorite experiences with the kids?
So the challenges, I do get a lot of boys in my classes. Sometimes I will do specific girls only classes, but when I have a group that's mixed, if I have just one girl in there, I feel like it just drops the level. It calms that level down. Mm-hmm. Right now, my class tomorrow is all boys, and they get a little wild. But having done this for so many years, I have just gotten particular with my rules and how to carry the rod and how to be in control of your hook and things like that. So safety is like my biggest challenge. I don't do programs from the boat. I do it all from the bank or from a dock. I usually don't do programs on the floating dock. I keep them up high so there's a railing. Unless we're crabbing, we'll go down on the floating dock sometimes. So that's probably my biggest challenge. But some of the things that I absolutely love are, of course, seeing somebody that's catching something for the first time, and just the wonder. I have this great photo of a little girl who's got a little puffer fish in her hand, and she's like, she's so surprised that she caught that. And that's fun when they see something that they haven't seen before or that they don't recognize, and getting them to understand how to identify that. But the other thing I absolutely love is when a student or a participant, I have several that will come to all my classes, anything that I offer, if it's like a fishy art one, or if it's something in the marsh, whatever, they'll come to everything I offer. And then once they grow up or get a little older, they'll start sending me thank you notes, and they'll send pictures of the big fish they're catching and stuff. It's really rewarding to see them go on and be successful at it.
Awesome. Was there a particular age that you recommend children start to learn to fish?
Trial and error was how that came about. But I don't think it's too early to start children. You just have to keep those age groups appropriate. So if you're going to do toddlers, clearly that's a parent class in how to take your toddlers fishing. So we started out with our after school programs ages 6 to 12, and we quickly changed that to 8 to 12. There's still a big difference between an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. But what I found in those classes is that if I get a couple in each age range, or even if I get a really active 8-year-old that fishes already a little bit, I can pair them up. So we'll do a knot tying session, and then I'll see which ones have gotten it. and then I'll get them to help their peer. And it sometimes comes across much better as for them to learn from their peer in the class. I also have a lot of graduates of the program come back and help. And that seems to go really well. They like to learn from a cool teen or somebody that's a little bit older than they are.
Yeah.
So 8 to 12 is what I generally start my programs now. But you can, as long if you want to do a group of 6-year-olds, I would just keep it to parents and 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
At 8 years old, I don't have to invite the parents as much.
Right.
Every once in a while.
Okay. They'll listen a little bit better at that point, right?
Right.
Okay. You mentioned you're not seeing as many girls as you are boys. Why do you think that is?
I think there are so many choices of things that kids can do right now. I am seeing a lot more girls come to the class recently. This particular spring just was not one of those times. But we do get some great girls come through our classes and especially come through our camps. And it's probably in the camps, we're probably a good half and half. But yeah, I think there's a lot of choices, especially if it's something that's an after school class or something that's a camp. There's so many other choices out there. We really have to market to those individuals. So sometimes not only will I do a fishing 101 camp or intro to fishing, angling kids, I call it angling kids. I will incorporate things that will be a little more attractive to somebody who might want to do art. So we have that design a lure contest. And we have some other components that we will use to kind of get those girls more engaged. It's a work in progress to get a nice balance.
Do you get your group together? You see what the makeup in terms of age and gender is, and then you craft a course particularly for that group, is what it sounds like, right?
Yes.
Short answer, yes.
Short answer is yes. I have a whole bank of things that I can pull down. And depending, like you said, on the makeup of the group, and you can kind of assess that on the first day. But I mean, I have a standard schedule that I do with these, but if I see these, they're like really hands-on and they want to be crafty, we're going to make a minnow bucket out of a 2-liter bottle. Like they're going to do that to take home. If they are more artsy, then we'll do the lure contest. But yes, I will customize it to the group majority of the time. How
long are these classes generally? I mean, not in terms of over span of weeks, but when you are on the water, how long does that last that particular day?
So for the camps, we're on the water 3 days out of a week, and that would be 4 hours at a time. For the after school program, we only have them for an hour and a half. Okay. So we have to fit a lot in to that hour and a half. That's why we do some of the pre-work ahead of time. Right. So that they're comfortable. They know what they're going to do when they get out there. Again, we're always talking about safety and it's fun. I mean, it's just really designed to be fun.
Yeah.
If you want them to have fun. The other thing that I want them to do is be confident enough when they leave to show their next door neighbor or show their sister or whatever it may be. I want them to be confident so that they can teach someone else.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's a balance between their attention span as well as giving them something they can take home and build on. So I'm sure that's a little bit of a delicate balance because, I mean, I know that I don't know kids as well as you do for sure, but I know in particular, some children will lose interest fairly quickly.
And there's tons of techniques for that. I always just take in my tackle bag. That thing is full. So I can pull out lures and talk about artificial lures. I can pull out a fish. We can talk about the parts of the fish, snacks. Oh my gosh. I love making snacks with them. That makes it very memorable. So always have my bag of tricks. And like you said, if you see them going rogue or kind of losing interest, you just switch it up and grab it another way. Hands-on is always good. Something to take home is always good.
Yeah, I saw that you make sushi too, right?
We do make sushi. That's one of the things that they love to do, which is Rice Krispie treats and a little Swedish fish and some fruit by the foot So they'll wrap it up, make it look like sushi, and they'll get to take that home, or they can eat it there. I usually give them a kit to take home as well. They love it. It looks so cute when they do it. And we get pictures of them. And we've done other things like take pretzel sticks and stick them all into a marshmallow and then tape 2 spoons together. So it's like a parrotfish's beak. And then I tell them they have to eat, the parrotfish has to eat the marshmallow and avoid all the spines. Okay. So it's an activity to teach about habitat or teach about a species, and then they get to eat it.
Okay. What's a mom's role in helping their children fish? Obviously, in the past, dad kind of took that role, but, there's certainly a lot more single family households. There are a lot more women who are interested in fishing. What do you see as the mom's role or as the woman's role? Do you get mostly moms, I guess, is the best question?
Years ago, about 20-ish years ago, we did a survey to see if kids had been exposed to fishing in our state in South Carolina. And it was a ridiculous number, like 93% of the kids had been fishing before. It did not matter if they were from a single family home. It didn't matter if they were gone with their grandparents or whatever, but they are getting that experience somehow, even if it is a single mom. So we felt good about that. But I definitely get a lot of moms that want to feel confident. So some of my programs go hand in hand. So Angling Women, we teach women's classes as well. And I do get a lot of moms that are coming to learn for that reason. We did some programs with men and before. And what I thought was funny was we would do an adult class, and then we would do a family class, and we would have men that would come to both. They would come to the adult class first, so that when they brought their family back, they looked like they knew what they were doing.
Okay.
So we did that for several years during National Fishing and Boating Week. But now, with all the research that's out there now, we know that women are planning vacations, and they're planning that time that's available. So it's one way that they can incorporate an inexpensive activity that is healthy, it's outside, and it's just good for the mind and good for the soul.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they are, in a lot of cases, with that free time, they're the decision makers. The moms are the decision makers. And that's why we try to really let women come take the classes, feel comfortable so that they can, but they'll come and bring their children. So we've done Mother-Son Day on the pier, and we've done Mother-Daughter Day. So those are great avenues because they're learning together.
Do you network with other people who are specializing in this kind of education for young people?
So there is a national organization called AREA, which is Aquatic Resources Education Association. And those are people that are doing this type of work all across the country. I'm the Southeastern representative for that organization. So we actually have a meeting tomorrow. But that's a good way to exchange ideas and information. And they actually helped me immensely when I was first getting started. I won't say the year. Way back when. But actually, I talked with California when I was getting started, and they were a huge help. When I was back working for the agency in South Carolina, we hired a group to come in and do focus groups with students around the state, and we learned so much. We also had some interviews with adults and families that fished and families that didn't fish. So everything was built, and everything that I've worked on, it was built to fill a need and to really address the issues. And from the get-go, even back then, like I said, most of the kids here have had an experience fishing. So they told us from the get-go that you don't have a recruitment problem, you have a retention problem. Yeah. So keeping them engaged. And that's where all the fun additional things come in, where we try to incorporate, a cool snack or something that they only get when they go fishing. I was never allowed to have Cheetos. So I would take Cheetos out on the boat, but that puts a positive connection with something that you're doing and kind of helps make them want to do it. because you're not going to catch every time.
Right, exactly. And that is kind of one of the things too. And I know a lot of advice I've heard with regard to introducing children is to make sure you notice the signs when they're starting to get tired or they're starting to, get into other things and call it a day. Don't anticipate, taking a child on an all-day adventure because they're going to lose interest or they're going to, get tired and they'll get cranky and that's not a good experience.
Right.
So, I know there's, concern there in terms of making sure adults make it a child-sized experience versus an adult-sized experience. Are there other types of important things for adults to think about when they are trying to work with their kids, if they don't have access to a program like yours?
One of the hardest things for me was to put my fishing rod down. If I say like, I'm going fishing, I'm taking them fishing, I want to fish too.
Right.
And I find, you end up getting frustrated yourself because when you go and you take kids, depending on the age, I mean, mine are a little older now and I can go, I still have to stop and untangle every once in a while, but I feel like I can go and take a fishing rod now. But when they were a little bit younger, just make it for them. Okay. Make your day a little later when they're doing something, they can be with you. When I was growing up, we could walk the beach and look for shark's teeth. There were lessons in what I was doing when I wasn't fishing that I now know as an adult. When we would get out of the boat and walk the beach for shark's teeth and look for those, I didn't know. I just thought we were taking a break, but it was dead low tide and the fish aren't biting at dead low tide. So as an adult, I realized that, but as a child, I wasn't learning that. I was just participating, having an activity planned, looking for shark's teeth, looking for shells, picking up litter, something that you can do to teach them and let them have a great time. Even when you're not fishing at that moment or you're not catching, something that will associate some fun with them. I think this sounds terrible, but bribery is a great thing. Like I said, having something special that they only get when they're out on the water is great. Make it, like you said, make it a small amount of time and don't take it. It will frustrate you if you try to fish. So as you're getting started or as you're just introducing, just focus on their equipment and their rods and reels and you just support them.
Well, speaking of equipment and fishing gear, what do you suggest parents buy for kids when they're just getting started?
That is also a great question. I grew up fishing with a spinning rod. The ones that are open base, showing the line. But my sisters are older than I am, and they grew up with the spin cast, not necessarily the kiddie rod, but this kind.
Right.
I just don't recommend the child-sized fishing rods because they'll be able to grow into it. So go ahead and buy a combo if you're going to fish freshwater, or if you want the spin cast, the push button kind. That works. A lot of people use this in freshwater. I like for saltwater, even if you're a very basic beginner, I still like a spinning rod because you can see that line. And if it gets tangled, you can untangle it much easier than if you have a spin cast and you have to unscrew it and take it off. So just a regular fishing rod, even if they're short, they should be able to work it and they're going to grow into it. The other suggestion is don't buy the least expensive one. If you spend a little, maybe not the least expensive and definitely not the most expensive, but you want something that's going to last. And ones with a lot of plastic parts sometimes will just fail quickly. So I use Fluger combos. I use some ugly stick combos. Those are for spinning. And then for spin cast, I'll use a Synergy steel. But I don't care if I'm fishing freshwater or saltwater. I'm going to rinse them every single time I use them. Yeah. And that's just a good habit to get, even to let them help when they're done. That's part of fishing is go ahead and rinse off your rod and make sure that it doesn't freeze up. So I would just start them out with a regular size rod.
Okay. We were talking about other programs in other states similar to what you're doing in that organization area. So what do you suggest if, especially for the summer, I know summer camps are probably almost full already, but if a parent is looking for a summer camp or an after school program or any kind of fishing instruction, how do they go about finding that?
I would definitely start with your state agency, because almost every state agency has an aquatic education coordinator. And so they have programs. They may range in scope pretty drastically. They might have summer programs, they might have in-school programs, but most every state agency has one. The area page, areanet.org is the website, and it should have even NGOs as well. So like IGFA has programs that you can join. There are a lot of organizations besides the state agency that you can find on there as well.
Okay, so International Game and Fish Association, the IGFA.org is a good starting point, as well as you say the state agencies, and that would be your wildlife and fish agencies like South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, Georgia Department of Natural Resources, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, just every state, like you say, the interior states as well as the coastal states will have some fish and wildlife organization. And as you mentioned, being part of South Carolina Wildlife Federation, every state also has a wildlife federation.
Exactly. And some of them have very active components. Like Tennessee has a hunting and fishing academy where you can go and learn your skills there. And like I said, we've got some programs coming up soon that will incorporate families and college students and all kinds of stuff. So check us out. And then your local tackle shops, especially the small stores, may have classes in the summer or seminars. I've done a lot of work trying to get my local tackle shop to set up specifically for women, and they have just launched a series of women doing seminars here, and I'm so excited about that. But we changed from a sit in a room, listen to the person speaking type seminar to, when I got there, I said, put a table out and let us all sit around the table. We're going to tie some knots. Right. So making it hands-on and active.
That's an important thing. Yeah. You can sit there and listen and your mind wanders.
Right.
Mine does.
Right. Oh, exactly. I was in a class the other day talking about trees and being affected by the woolly adelgid, and those trees border our trout streams. So my mind quickly made the jump to fishing for the trout instead of what was happening with the trees.
I know, squirrel.
Right. Exactly.
I love it. All right. Well, is there anything else you feel like we haven't covered in this that we need to talk about?
We are launching, the South Carolina Wildlife Federation is launching a plishing challenge. In Sweden, the term for litter pickup is plocka up. So that's the PL. And they started plogging over there. So they were picking up litter and jogging, and that spread over to the US with the birders, and they had flirting, which it just sounded weird to me. So I said, oh no, we're going to make that plishing. So we are doing litter pickup and catching fish. And instead of calling it a tournament, because we've had a lot of new anglers over the past couple of years, and definitely wanting to try and keep them engaged and involved now that they have their choices back with soccer and dance and all that stuff where they can be around people. A lot of people picked up fishing when there was a lot of solitude and we had to get out with our own families and do it. So we love them and we want to keep them. But they might not feel like a tournament angler yet. Right. So that's why we kind of launched this challenge to keep these anglers engaged so they can catch a fish and log it. They don't have to measure it. They don't have to weigh it. They don't even have to know what it is. I'll help them figure that out though. But they can log their fish. They can release it and get an extra point. they can keep it if it's legal, but if they release it, they get an extra point, and then they can log their bags of trash. So for this litter pickup component, each bag of trash is a point as well. So through the summer, this is going to run June 1st to August 31st. And through the summer, they will accumulate points. And we've got sponsors that are giving gift cards. AFCO's giving gift cards. Our Palmetto State Armory is giving gift cards. We've got big ones too, $500 gift cards to Palmetto State Armory.
Wow.
So yeah, at the end of the summer, we're going to give away 3 of those, and AFCO's doing $100 gift cards. We've got a ton of gear from Angling Women and from Pure Fishing. I'm excited. And I'm hoping that it'll help families stay engaged. And again, if you go fishing and you're not catching a fish, then you can always get some points by cleaning up your environment,
right,
to keep them engaged. You don't have to be a hardcore, passionate angler. You can be a casual, social angler and still have fun. A lot of folks want this diehard, like, we have to make these new anglers. But really, I just want people to get familiar with it, enjoy it, make a lifelong hobby of it. And a lot of times they'll drop out in college or right when they get to be a young adult. But when they start having families, they're going to come back. And I'm seeing that with a lot of the participants that I had in some of my programs. I had one become a guide.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I had one that was grew up a freshwater angler, and she started my programs when she was 6 years old. She's 26 now. So that just dated me. She caught her first offshore species last year. Right. So, watching them kind of go through the process, either stay fully engaged or just, fishing for fun on the weekend. They don't have to be competing. We just want them to develop that love for it and spread it.
Great. Yeah. So the goal is not to make everybody, a rabid tournament fisherman who spends every waking moment on the water. The idea is to instill the love of the outdoors, the love of fishing,
exactly.
Enjoyment of the sport. So they can go to anglingwomen.com and find out more about that.
That one is going to be on the Wildlife Federation's page. That one is sponsored by the Wildlife Federation. So it's scwf.org/plishing.
That sounds like an exciting experience. I hope we all are able to get out on the water more this spring and summer and continue the trend toward, increasing angler participation and teaching more kids to fish. So I thank you so much, Bebe Dalton Harrison, for being with me today. And everybody, tight lines, have a great rest of your week.